Frankie here. Today I'm joined by Morris, Sacramento, California, Rockforce, Fallen Kings. I shouldn't even need to do an intro for you. We all know who the hell you are, but Morris, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Frankie. I appreciate it.
We just wrapped up Cap City 2v2 here in Lansing. What'd you think of the jam?
First time here in Lansing, Michigan. It was dope. It reminded me of Sacramento. A lot of good people, community that's growing. We're right here in the smack dab middle of downtown. It's nice, everything's renovated. But as for the jam, the music was good, actual hip hop was being played, super community support. So I couldn't say anything wrong about that.
Definitely the aspect where you get to have it in a city and outdoors. You get an outdoor jam like once or twice a year, right?
Yeah. It's not many in the USA.
I want to talk about that floor.
So everything with production with the event was like really, really nice. Was talking to a friend of mine from the event and he let me know they just purchased the floor. But yeah, it was a little rough. Floor was a little bit shaky. So I always take that in accountability when I'm judging or I'm competing, because that's how everybody's gonna react to dancing. If the floor is clunky, if it's lopsided, if it's sticky.
That's quite generous of you as a judge to give us a little bit of cushion for that. You know, to tie it back into breaking, I feel like when it comes to practice, one thing you kind of forget is you don't get the nice wood floor that you practice on every day when you go to a jam.
One jam you may get concrete, one jam you may get old school linoleum, one jam will have properly floor made for the event. Right. So you gotta be prepared for anything.
So hometown of Sacramento, breaking since '99, and here's a little bit of trivia that people might not know about you. You've previously talked about how Gerald from Rockforce, from Sacramento, was one of your first inspirations early on in your dance career. And for those of you that don't know, Gerald was a pioneer.
Oh yes.
He was world class, he was competing abroad, battle of the year, right? And I gotta imagine, 98, 99, not a lot of people doing air flares at the time.
No.
Right?
No, most definitely not.
And so of course it's awesome to see full circle that you've been representing Rockforce, you know, for a substantial part of your career. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Of course. So when I was a little kid, there was a shop called Get a Clue. And they had Bally Year 98 playing on one of the videos there, VHS. So that should reveal my age. We were still with tapes. Literally, I was there shopping with my mother. My mother bought the tape for me. Instantly, I knew I wanted to do this. Gerald happened to be one of the guys on the tapes going crazy. He was wearing all black kind of spandex fit with like a headband. You can go back and watch the footage now. And he was doing hand hops. He was doing air flares, all kinds of really good power. And it just really, really inspired me. It was like, hey, this guy's from Sacramento. And he's doing it, I want to do it too. Another crew had another guy inspire me another way. It was a dude from Phase 2, he's doing footwork. And I was like, if that guy went to Germany, I can go to Germany. So like just overall, just the whole experience of Ballad a Year let me know that it was obtainable for us. But Gerald specifically, seeing somebody from Sacramento on that level, and then I found out his achievements in dance after watching that video, it inspired me way more. And I actually tried to follow the things he did in my timeline too.
You're inspired by these people, their dance resonates with you, but at the same time, on the other side of it, you can see yourself, you know, having a place in that too, you know? I think some of us maybe get caught up in being too much of a fan, right?
A little bit, yeah.
As opposed to seeing ourselves, okay, what does this have an effect on me? You know, how can I take better control of my life? How do I become the main character in my own story, right?
Well, I mean, one of the good things about it is I'm a super fan of these guys. Like not just him, just a ton of people from the video, right? But it's also, to what aspect of a fan am I taking it? These people are templates on what I should do next when I'm lost. So when I was a little kid, I was like, okay, I want to go to Ballad Year, but how do I get there? I don't know Thomas. I meet Thomas later, you know, down the line, and like, okay, he's gonna be the person who has the seal of approval. But what I can do is be like, hey, Gerald went to these events, he won these competitions, so I can kind of follow that timeline, and then hopefully I'll land somewhere near where he was at, and then try to achieve the goals that I want, but follow the path he laid for us. That's, I think, what we forget. We kind of come into this blind and like, yo, we're doing it, and then I know I want to take it to the next level, and you follow their timeline.
So the first clip we have here is B-Boy Hodown, 2006 Flexible Flav Havacoro. Dietrich's was in this one, a young Flexible Flav. You know, you guys were just killing it, running through so many of these battles in the early 2000s.
I remember this was like, after qualifying, this was our first battle of the night. And I remember it was hectic because this is Having Coral is like pretty much their stomping grounds. They're like one of the best crews to ever come out of Texas, and they were not having it. They were not our friends that night. And we were known for routines at this time. So if you watch the battle, we're doing routines. We actually had Kid Glide come in and help us out from Dynamic Rocker. Shout out to Kid Glide. And they were just pissed. Having Coral was mad. They were like, yo, you guys are doing cheerleading routines. We coming to get you. And we were just like, nah, we're coming here to win. And it was just back and forth, us going at it, and you could feel the tension. I remember when we ended up beating them, they grabbed the mic because they were so upset that we beat them. Like Marlon specifically. Shout out to Marlon, love you, bro, but it is what it is.
Just a different time, just a different level of hunger.
Oh yeah. Yeah, from the looks at it, it looks like I went after Moy's round, but I remember Little John was coming for me. He was waiting. Ooh, them flexible days. We're doing definitely a crew battle. And the way we approached it was, I remember we're always like, hey, we do our best routines on the best guy, and then we put our best guy on their second best dude, and so on and so on. So we're already playing a numbers game. We're beating them, like, you know, like that. But having Coral is so amazing, it's really hard to pinpoint who the best guy was, because we were like, yo, is it Little John? Was it Marlon at the time? Marlon was super crazy on point. And then, you know, Moy was in the mix. I'm not even sure how we formatted it, because we may even used at this point Kid Glide as our best guy. You know, he was our star player at the moment.
I watched I think it was a podcast with D-Trace. He was talking a little bit about Flex Flav days. I'm sure this is pretty standard for a lot of more professional crews nowadays, but could you talk a little bit about, at the time, was it like Abe had you guys have very designated roles for a certain crew battle?
Yeah, so like not certain crew battle, every crew battle, depending on what we needed. Even to this point, last night at the jam, I was trying to let people know, like, your 2-on-2 partner has a position they have to play. You know, like if somebody's not so good in dancing, of course we need to go home and train on dancing, but your partner should cover it. You know, you can't go in there and be like, all right, I'm gonna do just one thing, but you should complement each other when you dance. And for this battle specifically, it was like, okay, Abe would have been the dancer, Dietrich would have been the power mover. I was considered the blow-up guy, or the ringer, the guy to go out there, do a very dynamic round. Kid Glide was a dynamic round with footwork. We had, I believe, Vince and Kurt here, which were two other guys. Vince is another good YouTuber, Vinsanity. They were doing routines and covering that too. So most definitely, it was like everybody definitely had a role in a position. We all had a certain amount of pressure because we knew what role we had to play for us to be successful. And in 2006, we were kind of on our high rise. We were starting to become a crew name to be dealt with. If we didn't play our position and couldn't fulfill, we were definitely losing. Having a Coral, I know they wanted to beat us because we were not as big of a name as they were at the time. So them losing to us pissed them off majorly. So that's why for us, the pressure was on us to make sure we facilitated the way we battled, we stayed tight in our crew, and we followed the script.
All these dynamics and all these intricacies of crew battles, it's awesome to hear. It's awesome to watch it, you know, live and stuff. To be able to bring back crew battles, I hope so, right?
I think we're doing the community a disservice. In the crew battle days, it's harder for promoters, let's say that, because it's like more expensive, you know? But as in for community, you want to do a 10-on-10 because not everybody is built to be a one-on-one guy. Two, you get to see who's creative. You get to see every version of how you think a crew should run. Like even if it's confusion, it's just 10 random people for your city, you'll get to see how the people in that city perceive breaking, what their styles are, their approach. In 1v1s, you're getting the guy who can almost do everything and clump it all together. But in these days, all right, Morris, you're the blow-up guy. Let me see how dynamic you can take it. Okay, Abe, you're the foundation dude. Let me see how far you can take that. Dietrich, you're doing power. You're on power duty. Let's see how dynamic you can, and how your level changes. Dietrich is amazing in power. So then when we see them dance outside of doing this, it's even more amazing because you're like, we didn't know you could do that, you know? But you get to see kind of the variety and everybody's personalities in that. And I will say this, normally if you have a good crew leader, they will put you in a position they know you can be successful at. So even though Abe was a hard teacher, it was wild working with him. He knew everybody's position and where they could excel, even if we didn't even agree with it. So there are certain guys like you know, Dietrich would want to go out there and be like, yo, I want to do top rocks and footwork. And he'd be like, hey, nah, you're doing power.
So jumping forward in time here, we're going to talk now about Battle of the Year 09 one-on-one. Here you have Lil Kev from France.
Ooh. That was actually a move inspired by Gerald. Yeah. Ooh. I believe this was the second battle of the night that I had. This is one of the crazier battles I had. Craziest was versus Lulu. That one was wild. I was trying to mix more of my flare variations to go against Kev, because Kev is a power mover, so I was like, let me test him out with some of my power. It was good.
We gotta talk about your flares, of course. A gift that you've obviously, it's served you well for so many years now. It's funny because we all know flares are important. We all know it's foundation. We all know we need to practice it, but it's very rare to see people try to flip this move or make it useful in an interesting way. What is it about flares that resonates with you?
When I first started, and I was in high school, I messed up. One of me and my friends, we separated moves. Like my friend Tommy was like, yo, I'm gonna learn how to windmill, and I was like, all right, you gonna learn how to windmill, I'm gonna learn how to flare. We all started trying to get variations, and I looked up to Swift Rock and Storm, but at that time I looked up more to Swift Rock. And Swift Rock was doing like cross legs all the way together, and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna learn how to do a tap cross like flare, and I'm gonna like learn how to do undergrabs. And then I was like, I'm gonna learn how to do double undergrabs. And then I was like, I'm gonna learn how to do baby flares. It was like, let me try to learn how to do this move. I saw a clip, I think on Freshest Kids, about how many ways you could do one move. And I tried to get 10 different variations of flares. I know when I first came out, there were people who could do flares. Like the person who I felt like made flaring really, really amazing was, well, two people. K-Mill, when I saw him in Battle Year 98, he did really high flare, but it wasn't like the Juice flare. But the Juice flare was from a Mass of Monkeys. He was doing like together really high or up arch. And I was like, whoa, I love both of these dancers. And I was like, yo, I need to learn how to make something in between this something. And that's when I started focusing on, okay, let me see how low I can do the move, how high can I do like the chair hops? Because there was a guy in 98 named Claude from South African All-Stars. He was the first person I saw do the chair flare hop. Later on down the line, Casper, when we were on a movie set, he showed me how to do a chair flare because he could do it. Because he was really good at air chairing and chair freezing. So back then he was just like, hey Morris, I want to see if you could do this. And it was like, boop, and he showed me. But I was like, yo, it's a flare, let's add it on.
For younger folks, maybe not try to pick up too many things all at once. Take your time with one particular thing.
Oh yeah, so when I started, it took me about 3 months to get the move. The way I teach people, I'm like, get a regular flare 10 times, and then you can do one specialized flare. High flare, low flare, cross leg, if you can flare 10 times. If you can't get to flaring 10 times where it's clean, we're not moving past that.
Well, there you have it, guys. Some flare games from the master, of course.
I don't want to even say I'm a master. I'm always a student.
He's too humble. All right, moving on here. We're going to move on to raw circles.
There go them high flares. Oh, yeah. I'm going, Nairumi. Nairumi and Ayumi were killing it during these times. They had like some of the best routines. Nairumi was the first B-girl to ever beat me. She actually was a part of Flexible Flav. So she came to Sacramento in 2004, and we didn't know how good she was. Abe had set it up to where her and Dietrich entered a battle, and it was me and a guy named Will. I'm just young, still entered, and Nairumi toasted the bejesus out of me. Skyrocket now, 2011, and I was back in 2004. I know how good Nairumi is. Every competition I'm going to around the world, she's winning. Her sister isn't even like hitting that point yet. Yumi's still on the uprise. I see this battle and I'm like, yo, they're trying to take us out, Graf. I'm about to go crazy.
Man, this event, Raw Circles at the time, year after year, this footage was insane.
It was so many people there. A lot of qualifiers. Shout out to Team Shemetta at the time. It was Sambo, my man, Ray, Hurricane Ray, Amir, of course, shout out to Amir. These guys were good guys. I felt like they were doing everything they can to kind of like solidify themselves for Belgium. And they're still around. They're great dudes.
We are going to 2015.
Ooh, we getting close.
Rockforce and Knucklehead Zoo.
Oh yeah, I remember this one. This is the North American qualifier.
Yes.
This is at the old district studio. Yeah, I think I was like trying to call out Ali at this point, because I was like, oh, everybody's raving over Ali. Ooh. I was like, maybe I should go back to wearing shorts again. Ooh, I was looking light. That reset crazy though.
The leg move into the grunt, I love that.
Woo, yes. Shout out to Floor Rock. Shout out to Swift Rock. Shout out to, am I missing something? Emilio.
So we're talking about 2015 here, Rockforce. It was around this time that you got down with them, is that right?
Yes, so this team right here, which was Brett, Icy Ibs, Kareem, and myself, we were the resurgence of Rockforce again. And Donovan. Donovan was a part of it. He's one of the older members, but we had a conscious decision. It was time to bring it back. Kareem was actually the one who was like, yo, I want to start rocking a name. Will you guys be a part of it? And I was like, yeah. I was like, of course. What you mean? I always wanted to be a part of Rockforce. We looked at it as like our vibe was just, we connect and we think the same way. We were always more like always a student like mindset. We could always be better. When we go out there, we try to put our all out there, even if it's not the best. Like for me, that wasn't even my best round, but I'm definitely gonna try my best to not let my crewmates down. That's one of the things like that holds us tight together.
Were you guys all based in the same area geographically? I know Ives, at least, he was based in Alaska.
Yeah, so Ives is in Alaska, I'm in Sacramento, Kareem was in Vegas, and then Brett was in Vegas. So we're never all together. We come together maybe a day or two before and then we train. You know, we try our best when we get to the events. We run over routines, we hang out, we session just to see how we're vibing and to see how we're working together, who's listening, who's not listening. And then we're all similar personalities one way, shape, or form, so it just slowly starts to connect.
Going back to the emphasis on 1v1 nowadays, and I feel like there's a little bit of a challenge trying to get people to maybe come together a little bit more. What is it about you guys, you were talking about the chemistry or the mindset, what is it about you guys that, you know, made you guys connect? And even if you're not in the same place, once you guys get together, it's like clockwork. You guys are ready to roll as a unit.
I would say it's like, especially for me and Kareem, and even Brett and Ives, because Ives is so much younger than us, he's like a little brother. But for the rest of us, we're like just brothers who are around the same age, a year or two apart. Just having that kind of same generational approach, it's fun. Like I'll go to Kareem's house or come to my house and we talk about the same things, like what's happening in the scene, what's happening in popular culture, and those things help you connect faster. But we always, I would say with Rockforce, we have a common goal. Like we want to do our best, we want to represent right, we want to see what happens. We don't know if we're going to win, we don't know if we're going to lose, but we want to do our best. What helps us connect mostly is those little moments of having fun. So me and Kareem used to travel. I mean, aside from this, we love every event. We used to have more fun hanging out than battling because we had been battling for so long and we lived in different places at this time. We would get to hang out on the road and just everybody's like, why aren't y'all out partying? We'd just be kicking it and catching up, you know? And then that's what two friends do. And that's what makes us different when we're battling, because say I see my friend and he's not doing so well, I'm gonna kick it into gear because I actually care about this person. Whether if I'm on a super team, which I have been, you're just like, all right, I gotta do the best. I gotta do the best. But when you see your man's down, you wanna help him out. And when he sees I'm down, he wants to help me out. That's the connections we have. We try to teach the younger generation that, so when they take our place, they'll know how to do that for others.
Really well said. You know, you guys have the common goal, the overall goal. We're here to do a job when we go to the event, but at the same time, you can have so much fun along the way.
Oh yeah. You could tell yesterday at the battles, there were people who were enjoying it. I would say the crew that looks like they enjoyed it the most was Culture Shock. They're young, they're new, they're hype. They got a long way to go. But because they're there with their friends, you could see they're like building up. And if they stick with it, it's like, yo, they're gonna be a problem to deal with. But there are other crews there who are like concrete, but that vibe of them just like, yo, we're still having fun, we're still babies of this, will make you grow so much faster.
Rad, Rock All Day versus Rockforce, a freestyle session.
Ooh, yes, I remember this battle. I think I crashed in this battle. I actually was sick at freestyle. I think I had the flu. I just didn't want to let the team down. I was already over contagious stage, but I was definitely not in good graces.
So you got the crew routine to transition your round.
Oh yeah, we did the flare routine here. Woo, that was nice. Stab, boom, chair flare, gone, flare. Icy ice, ooh, bam. Twist, freeze, down. That was one of my favorite battles of that night. To battle Rad, one, because Rad's a real crew. It made it special because they jumped out, they talked crap, they battled with their heart. I love it when people actually battle. That's my favorite thing. I don't want it to fight or want people to fight, but when you actually care and you're doing it with your friends, you get a different level of competition.
So my question here is, you've previously talked about how, for your approach to the dance, you try to make everyone who's watching feel something. And the importance of storytelling, it's not just about the moves, of course. You know, as competitors, I feel like that can be a fine line to try to balance, you know, your content and the delivery of it. I see some guys, you know, once in a while, they have just the most impeccable form, you know, technique. They have their technique down cold with like very limited presence when we come to a battle, and it's just so frustrating to watch that kind of person. And then you have the flip side, of course, super high energy. They want to engage with everyone, their opponent, the audience and stuff, but maybe their technique's not there. So do you have any overall thoughts on how to navigate that for?
I'm more of the latter. So like, I'm more of the connect with the audience, live in the moment. So like, I love a high level dancer, I love a person who puts their round together. But ultimately, when you're out there, you want to train. So I train a lot, you know, even though sometimes it may not even look like it, always a student. But I train a lot, so like I'll have a decent discipline, but I also want to make sure you have a vibe that you're actually there at the event. I think that's all you need to be, is very conscious of that, is that I'm at an event, there are people here, they want to feel something, I want to feel something, so I can have a good memory of that event. So even here was like, okay, Rad Crew is known for a lot of character, a lot of burns, like in the background. They do a lot of things, you know, to hype themselves up. And then the crew gets that way. So then I was like, all right, my crew's kind of getting hyped. We had people in the crowd cheering. Let me show them how we do it. So like we do the routine. I try to do a high level flare. I wasn't able to dance because I was in the routine. So I was like, let me find a moment to hit some music cues to where the crowd can understand it and they can feel what I'm feeling. You know, and it wasn't so like, oh, let me top rock and reset. It was like, hold on, let me hit a different part of the song, a different sound and translate. And the crowd got it, and I was like, yes, that's what I did. And I was like, yeah, because I could hear the crowd responding the way I wanted them to. To speak on what you were saying, you want to have a happy medium. So if you look at the round, I started with higher level power. Then I did like, whatever footwork. But then it was more, my footwork was to get me to the place to where I could get to the slow-mos into that song, which none of the other dancers were hitting.
Really well put in terms of how to find that balance, and it's per person too. The way that someone presents their personality can be different from one person to the other. It doesn't have to necessarily be, you know, the way that you particularly do it. You know, even if people are a little bit more, I'd say, reserved or introverted, there's a way for them to present themselves and be engaged in the battle too, right?
Oh, for sure. Honestly, I kind of hold myself as an introvert. I'm an introvert extrovert. So like if I'm around somebody I'm comfortable with, I'm an extrovert. If I'm around people I'm not comfortable with, I'm an introvert. So most of the time at the jam, I'm learning everybody, but most of the time, if you see me, I was in the back. And then when I got comfortable with everybody, then I'm out talking to everybody like, yo, good job, you did this, you did this. If you need advice, you could do this better, you know, so on and so on. And then at the jam, you kind of get to be that person when you dance. So how you want to communicate is always in that moment when you dance. When I look at everybody, I'm trying to look, how is this person trying to communicate to the audience, or how are they trying to communicate to me? Ultimately, ultimately, I mean, I want to say overall, they should be communicating only with music. You know, if you have a problem dancing in a social environment, just translate the music. It's the easiest thing. And you can use difficulty like transitions, power, freezes. That's also like a big part of storytelling too. It doesn't have to be like such a, oh, I'm like top rocking like this or whatnot. It's how you put your rounds together as well. That plays a big part of translating and expressing yourself. Some people there were like expressing themselves very well, and there were high level compositions. Like you were one of the high level compositions there when you're putting your rounds together. You have to put thought into that. And to be able to hit the cues is like, woo. It's beautiful on each side of the coin the way I look at it.
So the last round we're gonna watch is Breaking for Gold just this last year. Man, 2023 has been a busy year for you, bro.
And we're still going. Portugal, Belgium, Hong Kong, and that's just the Breaking for Gold events.
Oh man, I'm taking away precious sleep from you for all this.
Oh, it's my judges showcase. That was probably one of my favorite rounds of the night. I actually haven't watched this battle. The battle I watched mostly was me versus Mace, because that was the one where me and him were going back and forth and we had the tiebreaker.
So the question I wanted to ask about this particular event, I've had the fortune to be able to, have some world-class talent such as yourself be on this show and have the opportunity to talk to them. But even among all that, you probably have one of the thickest resumes, just competition-wise. Whether we're talking about just the volume of battles you've been in, also just the consistency, year after year after year. I feel like, even within the last decade, you've hardly had any stops, right? So you've talked about this topic before. You've talked about how you try to make it to every battle, but even more important, you make sure to practice. Even if you can't make it to the battles, right? So can you talk a little bit about how your training has progressed, the approach of it over time?
I always feel like I was better when I was younger. So like I'm always training to compete with that vibe when I was younger to now. But the difference is I know I'm doing more content than I was doing back then. The footage will just show you. You go back and be like, yo, he's throwing more in there with a little bit more intentional movements in there. You can tell, oh, he's trying to do, you can really specifically see it. But to talk about practice, there's so much we can learn, so much we can do, so much we can add on to who we were previous. When we're young, we're just full of energy. We're just like, yo, this is what I really like. I'm only focusing on this. But everybody knows me for flaring. Everybody knows me for doing this. So now it's like, okay, I have to do that because that's what I'm good at, but also need to add on these other aspects that I was missing back then. So if I'm not at like an event, I'm watching the events, I'm training, trying to see the temperature of the room because the standard changes every year. It changes every year and it sucks because that means you have to consistently keep training to stay relevant. Like I can't just do the same moves that I did from years ago the exact same way. I gotta add something on or I gotta switch the rotation. And then getting older is also like, okay, now I gotta work out on top of it so I can even do my old moves.
You were talking about, on the car ride here, you had to train early this morning, 5 a.m. Does the time in which you train, does that make a difference for you?
If I'm trying to have a nice productive day, and for instance, if I dance, the earlier I get in there and I work out, the looser I'm gonna be, the more I'm gonna be able to hit everything fully. If I'm waiting till the last minute, I'm not young anymore, I'm gonna be hurting that whole time. Oh my God, my body. But if you love what you do, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So it's like when I went to the gym this morning, I actually felt great after I was done. And then if I dance today, I'm gonna feel good. I try to get 3 days of actual breaking practice in. Because the only thing that's gonna get you better at breaking is breaking. Shout out to Omen for that. Omen was like, yo bro, you can work out as much as you want, but if you're not practicing breaking, that's not gonna help. 3 days a week on actual breaking, and then 2.5 days on actual weight training, cardio, and stamina. The crazy thing is it's weird. Life's like a circle, so every year I normally get injured around the beginning of the year. Somewhere around January to like April, I'll get injured, and then towards the end of the year, I'll start picking it up. I was injured earlier this year, and then right before Nationals, Actually, what was it? Minnesota was my first jam back, and then Nationals was where I was started to pick it up because it was like May, so I was already in like kind of a good place. I felt really bad for like a lot of people because this year you had to really be on it because there were only 3 events before we had Nationals. If you weren't in the pocket area, you kind of was done this year. And the year previous, there were too many. There were like 6 events, and then we had Nationals. On top of that, we had to travel overseas to battle in the world events too. So it was kind of crazy.
The last final discussion I want to talk about, and you kind of touched upon it a little bit before, just now. When you go to an event, you're obviously there to do a job. You want to focus on your rounds. You want to do a good job. But you just mentioned, when you're at a jam, you're doing other things too. You're engaged with the event. You're watching the battles. You're watching things like, what are the judges' reactions to the battles, right? I feel like even if you get robbed and you feel like you're the best one in the room, there's still something to learn. There's still a reason for you to be at the jam, as opposed to a lot of people, they just like to take off after they lose, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
If we're gonna go to the jam, you gotta figure out why you wanna be there in the first place. You know, some people are there going like, hey, I wanna win because I want this to be my career. Some people are like, yo, I just wanna have a good time. Some people are going to the gym because it's therapeutic. Some people are going because they want to be there with their friends. So first step is going there and figuring out why are you there. Now, if you're going there as a career, it's definitely not beneficial for you to leave after you lose. Because you need to see, okay, when you lose, the first emotion is you're angry because you lost. You didn't accomplish your goal. So that's not really like, oh, their fault. Anybody's fault. You're just angry because the goal wasn't accomplished. Now you need to figure out what was the purpose of you losing, what happened, what was the cause of it. Was it because I wasn't prepared? Was it because I was underperforming? Was it because the person just had an amazing night? Was it because the judges just weren't feeling my style? You can still be there at the jam after you lose and learn what's happening. What's the tone? What's the temperature? Now, if you're there for the other reasons, some of the better moments happen when you're not worried about competing. Say you're going there for a therapeutic reason. When you're not competing, the stress is gone. Now you can vibe and actually have fun, listen to the music, enjoy the actual community of the event. You know, so these are 2 parallels of why you should stay. But for me, if we're talking about the more competitive side, you want to see what the judges are actually looking for. And they don't really do this anymore. They don't really give the judges the mic and be like, hey, what do you want to see? I used to love that because then I could find out if the judge is lying, if he's telling the truth, if they're like, oh, I want to see everything. Like, oh my God, that means you don't want to see nothing. What do you like? You know, I want to know what you actually like. So then, is that in my vocabulary to be able to do that? Like, and people used to hate me for it because I would say, they were like, so that means you cater to the judges. I'm like, no, I'm not catering to the judge, but when you sign your name up, like, hey, I'm going to battle, you at that point are trying to say, I'm going to translate my dance so you can vote on it. But if they can't understand you, how can they vote on it? I used to tell people this all the time. And they were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, the concept is the judges can only judge on what they can comprehend. So if you're so super next level, and the judge is like, what's that? Yeah. You're getting an L, you're losing. But if the judge understands like, okay, this dancer is using levels. This dancer is using variety on, textures and tones when they dance. They can, and if they understand that and can comprehend it, they can vote on it. So I can understand when somebody's like, for instance, they're high level and their composition of their round is really nice, and one judge is like, they didn't hit any music, but they don't understand it. Like, you see how well this round was put together, and they're hitting different musical cues. And you'll see that sometimes when you're on the panel, you'll be like, you'll see a judge look at them like they're plumb crazy, and you're like, that's the reaction because they're having differences of opinions in what they're seeing, what's happening. And one judge may be conscious and one judge may not. You have to find out what judge is conscious.
The highlights of the jam sometimes are when you're not competing.
Yes.
I say this like I win every jam. I don't. But take it from the guy that actually wins jams, right? It's going to help you elevate your skills, like you said.
The ultimate goal is figure out why you come to the jam in the first place. Once you know why you're coming to the event, you can figure out where you land in this. Like, I'll go to an event and I just want to go and support. And what I do when I'm there like that, I just stand in the back. I'm not jumping in the cypher unless that environment is calling to it. But if I'm there supporting, I'm just in the back and I want to be a normal person at the event. Sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, nah, I got to get this person. They think they good, I want to get at them. Or if it's somebody I don't like, I'm like, yep, taking them down in front of everybody so they can see. So it's like, whatever your role of coming to the event, understand that and it will help you find a way to enjoy it. There's many events where, like, for instance, we just watched the Breaking for Gold Nationals. I lost this event, but I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed going against Vicious Victor in the finals. It was fun to me because it was like, when I was younger, I was beating him. When I was like, I had my time. Now he's the champ. He's beating me, so it's like, okay, let's go. It's like champion to champion. So I'm really enjoying myself while I'm there. And I'm learning from him, like, how is he approaching this in the finals when we're tired? How am I approaching it? What am I doing wrong? You know, what's he doing good? What's he doing bad? I love that about the event.
And then the second point you're saying is related to judging. You do, to some degree, need to make your dance digestible to the judges, right?
Perfect wording, yes.
One of the guys, like, me and him talked a while back. It was me and Flea. We talked because I was like, Flea, in one-on-ones, I get it, you know, because his style is everything, and it's how you do your moves. Not what moves you do, but how you do it. I totally agree with him, but you also got to have judges who understand that, you know? So, like, that's another avenue, because, you know, in my generation, there was a point in time where they were like, you know, you shouldn't care, and you shouldn't to a degree, but it depends on why you're going to the event. If you're going there and I'm just trying to explore and learn, yeah, don't care. Like yesterday, you did some, and people have done it before, you did some warrior stuff, I would like to say, warrior-ish. When you came in, you battled in a 2-on-2 by yourself. Like, you're making yourself so much better by doing that because it's just you and you're covering two different, you know, interpretations of the dance. That's really, really hard to do, but that's a learning experience. Like, there's the opportunity for winning that is there, but it's really hard, but it's nothing but a learning experience. Like, how am I gonna respond to this person? How am I gonna respond to that person? How am I gonna make my round before not look like this round, and then I gotta do it 4 times as opposed to doing it twice? When you go to these jams, everything is learning. Everything is learning. After you get past that point of, like, if you're doing it as a career, you don't want to lose, of course. Yeah.
I like that you had that caveat as well. You're not sacrificing who you are for the sake of the judges.
So imagine when you enter an event, you train, and you've trained breaking, let's say you've been training breaking for like 15 years, because people who actually have opportunities to win, normally they hit a 10-year mark, you start winning. You have a real opportunity to start winning at that point, because you just start, it clicks, it starts hitting. So imagine you've been practicing 15 years, something like 10 to 15 years. Now you see these judges. You want to be able to break in a way that where they'll understand it and you can communicate. Now, is that changing the way you're breaking? Or is that meaning that you're so versatile that you can break any way you want? Now, most people look at it like, oh, you're breaking to get their votes. And I'm like, no, I'm showing that I may have variety. If people know me, they know all my moves. They've seen me for years, over 2 decades. But it's how I'm doing the moves so the judges can understand it and they can either agree with it or they cannot. It works in my behalf at the battle, but it should work for everybody. And if you can't think of it that way, then just translate the music. Have fun with the music.
So we're gonna wrap it up here. Do you have any last thoughts for the viewers before we take off here?
Yeah, just pretty much find out why you want to dance and enjoy it. You know, like if you want to go the career path, still find a way to love it. You know, we can tell when you're at the event, you're not having a good time. Like I said, I'm going on 26 years, 25, 26 years, somewhere around that area. It's not the same as it was when I first came in, and it can't be because I'm 26 years in, but there are aspects of seeing like the new generation, the kids, seeing seasoned guys finally getting their shine. That makes me happy because it's like they're learning, and maybe, you know, what I've done has helped them in some way, shape, or form. That's also another form of part of my career, what I want to do. So like, yeah, find out why you love this and enjoy. Like, this is not, nobody gets into hip hop to be stressing. So find a way to love it.
Absolutely, really well put. We're gonna wrap it up here. Until next time, peace.